Hi everyone. I think for those of us who dare to look around the world today, we can see that we live in a very upside down world. There are many prophecies that have described the outcome that we're living in. And today I want to read through one that's known as the Thoth prophecy from a collection of Egyptian teachings written in Greek style. It's known as the Hermetica. Egyptian god Thoth, whose Greek equivalent is Hermes, is the god of wisdom. Egyptians also believe him to be the creator of the written language. A key insight that is important is that it's easy to assume Thoth or Hermes as deity and thus make the idea unreachable. But a key passage about him by translator Scott Walter says, Hermes was a man like you and me, a man who lived in Egypt a very long time ago, in the time of King Ammon. But he was a man who attained to gnosis, that is to say, knowledge of God, a kind of knowledge that involves union with God. And he was the first and greatest teacher of gnosis. He died as other men die, and after death he became a god. Just as you and I also, if we attain to gnosis, will become gods after our deaths. But in the dialogue which I and others like me write, and in which we make Hermes speak as teacher, we represent him as talking to his pupils at the time when he was living on earth, and at that time he was a man. In Asclepius, he laments, "Do you not know, Asclepius, that Egypt is an image of heaven? Or to speak more exactly, in Egypt all the operations of the powers that which rule and work in heaven have been transferred to earth below. Nay, it shall rather be said that the whole cosmos dwell in this our land as in its sanctuary. And yet, since it is fitting that wise men should have knowledge of all events before they come to pass, you must not be left in ignorance of this. There will come a time when it will be seen that in vain have the Egyptians honored the deity with heartfelt piety and assiduous service, and all our holy worship will be found bootless and ineffectual. For the gods will return from earth to heaven, Egypt will be forsaken, and the land which was once the home of religion will be left desolate, bereft of the presence of its deities. In that day will our most holy land, this land of shrines and temples, will be filled with funerals and corpses. To thee, most holy Nile, I cry. To thee I foretell that which shall be. Swollen with torrents of blood, thou wilt rise to the level of thy banks, and thy sacred waves will be not only stained, but utterly fouled with gore. Do you weep at this, Asclepius? There is worse to come. Egypt herself will have yet more to suffer. She will fall into a far more piteous plight, and will be infected with yet more grievous plagues. And this land, which once was holy, a land which loved the gods, in reward for her devotion, the gods deigned to sojourn upon earth, a land which was the teacher of mankind in holiness and piety, this land will go beyond all such cruel deeds. The dead will far outnumber the living, and the survivors will be known for Egyptians by their tongue alone, but in their actions they will seem to be men of another race. Egypt, Egypt, of thy religion nothing will remain but an empty tale, which thy own children in time to come will not believe. Nothing will be left but graven words, and only the stones will tell of thy piety. And in that day men will be weary of life, and they will cease to think the universe worthy of reverent wonder and of worship. And so religion, the greatest of all blessings, for there is nothing, nor has been, nor ever shall be, that can be deemed a greater boon, will be threatened with destruction. Men will think it a burden, and will come to scorn it. They will no longer love this world around us, this incomparable work of God, this glorious structure which he has built, this sum of good made of things of many diverse forms, this instrument whereby the will of God operates in that which he has made, ungrudgingly favoring man's welfare, this combinations and accumulation of all the manifold things that can call forth veneration, praise, and love of the beholder. Darkness will be preferred to light, and death will be thought more profitable than life. No one will raise his eyes to heaven. The pious will be deemed insane, and the impious wise. The madman will be thought a brave man, and the wicked will be esteemed as good. As to the soul, and the belief that it is immortal by nature, or may hope to attain to immortality, as I have taught you, all this they will mock at, and will even persuade themselves that it is false. No word of reverence or piety, no utterance worthy of heaven and of the gods of heaven will be heard or believed. And so the gods will depart from mankind, a grievous thing, and only evil angel will remain, who will mingle with men, and drive the poor wretches by main force into all manner of reckless crime, into wars and robberies and frauds, and all things hostile to the nature of the soul. Then will the earth no longer stand unshaken, and the sea will bear no ships. Heaven will not support the stars in their orbits, nor will the stars persuade the constant course in heaven. All voices of the gods will of necessity be silenced and dumb. The fruits of the earth will rot, the soil will turn barren, and the very air will sicken in sullen stagnation. After this manner will old age come upon the world. Religion will be no more. All things will be disordered and awry. All good will disappear. But when all this has befallen Asclepius, then the Master and Father God, the first before all, the maker of that God who first came into being, will look on that which has come to pass and will stay the disorder by the counter-working of his will, which is the good. He will call back to the right path those who have gone astray. He will cleanse the world from evil, now washing it away with water floods, now burning it out with fiercest fire, or again expelling it by war and pestilence. And thus he will bring back his world to its former aspect, so that the cosmos will once more be deemed worthy of worship and wondering reverence. And God, the maker and restorer of the mighty fabric, will be adored by the men of that day with unceasing hymns of praise and blessing. Such is the new birth of the cosmos. It is a making again of all things good, a holy and awe-striking restoration of all nature, and it is wrought in the process of time by the eternal will of God. For God's will has no beginning, it is ever the same, and as it now is, even so it has ever been without beginning. For it is the very being of God to purpose good. I think if we can take things not so literally, and if we can zoom out and not think about this describing Egypt, but as it is describing or trying to describe the world that we're living in. A few quick thoughts to take away from the reading is, first of all, is I think it would be hard for a lot of modern people to read this because of the number of times it mentioned God. And I think the question is, should there be such a taboo for us to explore God? Why are we fighting it so hard? I'm not telling you to believe one way or another, but why is there such a taboo? Second of all, there's the paragraph that starts with darkness will be preferred to light, and I think it describes very well the absurdities that we are living through. And finally, it did mention the idea of the soul, and honestly, I'm not sure if most people even think or know that we live with a soul. Maybe because we don't believe in the idea of a soul, that so many people can act as if they don't have a conscience. But regardless, if we can slow down and read this passage and other kinds of passage like this, it'll help us reflect and maybe stop the destructive things that we are doing to ourselves, as everything we seems to be choosing is slowly removing our humanity from ourselves. What do you think? If you have any thoughts from this passage, leave a comment. I'd love to hear it. That's it for now. Bye.